Apparently, the owner of this property never had the septic pumped out in 20-some years of ownership.
That's pretty normal. Yeah.
And it was pretty obvious when the inspection was being done that there was a problem with the leach field because water was coming out onto the ground in the area where the distribution box was.
Yeah.
So there was no disclosure in the spuds that there was a problem with the septic system.
Right, because they probably didn't know. So you can't disclose what you don't know.
Pretty hard not to see it. No. Well, anyway. So anyway, we have a seller that is very. I mean, she understands what her problem is, and she understands it's her issue, and so she's going to pay to have the septic replaced. We're not going to get into a negotiation. But if we had gotten into a negotiation, I think my position would have been, I mean, you've owned the house for 20 years. You may have experienced, which I'm pretty sure in talking to the husband, that you've experienced some problems with the septic system, at least with the toilets not flushing properly and things like that. And so therefore you did not disclose it on the SPDS. You know, it's not my client, the buyer's problem.
Well, the buyer then has a choice of continuing or not. That's
yeah, he could walk. I mean, she wouldn't want him to walk. I mean, this is a good price. So.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, in theory, that sounds perfect. Just when you put buyer and seller emotions and stuff into it, that's when things change. But yeah, I don't know. Those are difficult ones, especially. And I've seen some down in Sierra Vista that are putting like an $8,000 cap on that, which is too. I mean, that's. If I got that contract as a listing agent, I would counter back on that, wouldn't you, Charlie? Because you're not protecting your seller.
Yeah, I think you have to be. I'd counter back if I thought that there was no reason. In other words, knowing the property, knowing the seller, that there was no reason that it would ever get to be that kind of situation. I would think that was just an unknowing buyer broker trying to look good for his or her client.
Right.
So yeah, I would counter back and say, no, we're not going to accept that. We're going to accept the 1%.
Right.
And
I guess that's
the problem, Lisa, is if you sell, well, it can happen in your market too, but over the Sierra Vista market, there are a lot of homes that are in that $100,000 range. And you could easily have $1,000 isn't even going to hardly get the guy out there. You know? So there's probably a good reason in that market to have something beyond the 1%, but not the full cost of the system.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think we just have to be cautious which hat we're wearing and make sure that and it's obviously our client's decision to make with our advice. Yeah.
Well, I get, for me, my thought is, and what Charlie is saying is, in his case, if I were, working side by side with Charlie down there and be aware of that, page 8, line so-and-so, or just put in the thing, that instead of 1%, it's on a lower priced house, it stayed on page 8. You want it to be 2% or 2.5% or something like that. That makes it, a number that's reasonable against the cost of having that work done. It's just a matter of being aware of that up front. And that's a good point that he's making here. It's one of those small details, but again, if we're going to follow the contract, the timeline, and then those kind of costs that makes it reasonable for buyer or seller or both, just need to be added or modified, and be aware of knowing that going in. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And I think it's just one of the reasons why when people come into this market either to list or to represent buyers and they don't understand the market, it's an issue for the people that are here and in the market all the time to try to manage that, because you're managing both sides of the deal to a little degree because you're doing some handling. I mean, I got a request to show a house, a listing on Saturday, came from an agent in Phoenix, and he's never been here. So that'll be interesting.
Yeah, that's where you become educator.
Right.
And they're out of their field of expertise.
And I would suggest, yeah, telling them that you'll pay them a referral fee for their claim because you're going to be doing all the work anyway.
Believe me, I try to do that. I mean, that's like, tell me about your client. Tell me, have you ever been here before? What do you know about the area besides the wineries or something?
Mhm.
And then you say, well, have you thought about maybe just referring this to me or to somebody else? And, oh no, that's a client's a good friend. I want to take care of blah, blah, blah. I mean, hey, I can't manage it. That's his broker problem. And bottom line, as far as I'm concerned, practicing outside your sphere of influence or expertise,
Area of expertise. Yeah.
at least I don't see brokers doing a lot to make sure it doesn't happen. So
I actually am working with that with one of our agents right now. They're trying to do something out of their area of expertise and they're fighting me on it pretty hard. But I'm going to stand firm because honestly, it's my license on the line as well. And they're not doing their client, they're doing their client a disservice and our industry a disservice if I allow it to happen.
and it runs the gamut. I mean, when I was doing more commercial real estate, oh my God. I mean, it was like every residential agent, when Tucson was coming along with a client to buy a strip mall or something else. And you say,
Mhm.
you don't even know what the value is. How can you even begin to represent your client? Oh yeah, but they're good friends, they're good friends.
And I have had that happen where I've allowed it on a couple of occasions with supervision where it's their relative and they want to buy something that like a duplex when they've never done any kind of multifamily or, a fourplex or something. And I'll make the relative write a letter saying that they are fully aware that that their agent of choice is not an expert in that field and that they're taking a risk by using them. And if they sign it, then I will obviously assist the agent. But that kind of protects us a little bit. It doesn't protect the other agent from, that has to deal with an idiot. But, and it sounds callous to say that, but Charlie knows down in that market, especially, you get people that just stink at their job and can't do it. And they all come down there and think they know Sonoyta and they don't.
They really don't. But I mean, I don't want to be the bad guy. I don't mean that in one sense. I just don't want to be the adversary.
That's my job. Call me.
I'll be the adversary to the agent, but I don't want to be the adversary in front of the client. And that's usually where it comes to pass.
Yeah.
Because the client no longer asking their agent, well, tell me about this and tell me about that. And how's the water and blah, blah, blah. And they're not asking the agent. And so what am I supposed to do at that point?
Well, then you say, I'm sorry, I can't, you need to speak to your agent. I can't give you that information. And you have every right to say that.
I know that, but the agent's standing right there and we don't want everybody.
You still shouldn't give it to the person. You should just say, I'll get it to your agent. Because the agent's not going to be able to do it. And, they're relying on you to be their source, and that's not fair.
No, but
Real estate's not fair. We all know that.
it's common. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Charlie, I guess I'm trying to get the picture here. You have an agent out of Phoenix that's sending a client down to Sonoyta. The agent in Phoenix knows nothing about it, but they're trying to represent the buyer.
Yes.
And so you just say, well, that doesn't work. I'm in this market, you're in the Phoenix market. I need to take the client. You need to make this a referral fee.
I wish it were that easy, but I think that comes back to what I said a bit ago, and that's that in the general scheme of brokerages, I don't think the brokerages are dealing with it. I mean, I don't think there's constant communication to the people in a brokerage, whether it's a brokerage of 5 people or 500, that says that you shouldn't be practicing outside your field of expertise. And I'm going to be monitoring all the contracts that come through. And if I see you doing that, I want to know why you're going to do it. And if not, we're going to see what we can do to correct it because my license is at stake.
Well, is the Phoenix agent a part of the Tucson MLS? Are they registered with the Tucson MLS?
I'll tell you how it happened. The client that's coming is a cousin of a friend client of mine to whom I showed the home 2 days ago. And she went back to her cousin with her pictures and her videos and said, this is what the home is like. I think you ought to be, you ought to come see it. We really love Love to have you living here. The husband actually works in Tucson, even though he lives in Laveen. And so, I was waiting to hear from my friend whether or not her cousin was coming this weekend. And I get a call from an agent. And when I question him about who his client is, he starts telling me about how it's somebody in the dairy industry, related to the dairy industry in Laveen, and the husband works in Tucson. I said, I just showed it to a cousin. So, and so obviously this agent, by him saying so, is somebody, and I've never heard of the brokerage either, is a friend of the family, and so she said, well, I'll just call this person. Who knows how it actually happened? So that's how this goes. I mean, I just showed $1 million house last weekend to a couple from Tucson, from Phoenix, and they were with their agent. And again, the agent has a 25-year history and is best friends with the people that came to look at that home. Now that's an independent brokerage. I mean, the agent that came is the designated broker for the company. It's his call.
But they're still acting outside of their area of expertise. We're still just as liable as you are about that. And I think there's, people are greedy. I think the bottom line is that they're looking at the dollar. They're not looking at the representation. And
I mean, I have the tightest boundaries of almost anybody in the industry.
Yeah.
As to where I will go to do business. I mean, I refer out. If I can't do a home in Patagonia, Sonora, and Elgin, then I refer to somebody else.
Yeah.
I even had a land deal many, many years ago over in Benson. And I liked the client and I didn't want to go there. And I said, Jane, I can't do that. I'm not used to representing land in that area. I'm qualified in some senses, but I've just done it. She said, Charlie, I don't want anybody else to represent me except you. I said, okay, here's a letter. It says that you understand that I'm not experienced in doing land sales in that area. Mm-hmm. She said, yes. The broker on the other side was somebody from Headquarters West who I knew really well, so I knew I would not have any issues during the transaction. But I fully disclosed my lack of interest of doing that.
I would do the same thing and get it in writing and put it in my file. And does that protect everyone? No, but at least it makes them aware of it.
Oh.
Yeah. Because you can do that as long as you get their permission, which
I'm happy to collect the referral fee, believe me.
Yeah, I take a referral fee over.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm just having trouble here. If the $1 million person is a broker, but they're in the Phoenix market and not registered with the Tucson MLS, they themselves should be going, the ADRE says that I'm out of my area of expertise and I really need to have this agent take the lead.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, or that's the conversation to have with them. You need to let me take the lead here. I'm in this market. You're out of Phoenix. ADRE states you're out of your area of expertise. You can certainly stay in the conversation in the loop with this, but I need to take the lead on this by state law, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Let's disclose. That disclosure thing lets the agent off the hook.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
If the buyer says, I don't care if you know anything about this or not, and I want you to represent me, you can do it.
Oh, I see.
Is it smart? No.
But it should be in writing.
It has to be in writing. Otherwise, I can't protect you at all. But I won't work in Phoenix. I have a child that moved to Phoenix last year, and I referred them to an agent up there. I didn't work in Phoenix. I don't know the market. I don't know anything about Phoenix real estate other than, the basics.
No.
But I don't think I'd be able to even represent my own child properly up there. So I think people need to stay out of Sonoma if they don't know the area, stay out of Phoenix, stay out of Benson, or learn about the area.
I agree.
I know you do, because you get it more than anybody. And I did dabble in Sonoma, 15, 20 years ago. I did a lot of land down there, but I didn't sell any homes. It's so funny because there's certain areas that I knew and certain areas I didn't. And stayed out of what I didn't know.
And maybe I should be bribing these people with a case of wine.
Yeah. I don't know. You may just remind them, obviously not in front of their client, but remind them privately that that you need the letter for your file if they're acting out of their area of expertise so that you can protect yourself.
Yeah.
I don't think sometimes it's not malicious. I think Nancy can agree with me on this, is that quite often it's just ignorance. It's not malicious intent. They just don't
Right.
think about it.
So it looks like Donna's in her car driving down to see me when I mentioned wine. That was.
Yeah, she's on her way.
Well, I don't know if you can hear me because I don't,
Yeah.
is my
Yeah, we
volume?
can hear you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We can
Yeah,
see
well,
and hear you.
we did discuss this, didn't we? Charlie, me coming down for wine and to see
We've
see
had
your end?
multiple discussions about it, right.
I think Charlie
Yeah.
should have us all down for wine.
We're
I
up
know,
to time.
Charlie,
It's lonely down here.
so when it's 10 people or less, we'll have to figure out how we can do that, you know?
Yeah, we can stand in a field, arm to arm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh. How are your wife, kind of changing subjects, but we've got the giant wildfire here. Are you having any problems down there yet, Charlie?
Fortunately, no.
Good.
There's been nothing. I think part of it is because we're a little bit cooler, so
Mhm.
that's helping at the moment. There's been threatening rain, but it's over in Cochise County. It hasn't come over here yet, so we'll see.
Yeah, that's always so scary.
We're
down
close. It's going to happen. I mean, it's this time of year. It's always a race to see whether or not we'll have
Yeah.
wildfires or rain. I mean, it's just going to come first.
there. Yeah. Yeah.
What a great race.
You write a song about that.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh. What are some of the other things we've been seeing? I've seen a lot of problems with continuing Binzer problems, and lately a lot of the coming soon exempt delay forms. How are you guys feeling about that? Who's had to use one yet?
I use the exempt delay on every listing I take because they're never ready the minute I get a listing.
Right, but you're using the new form now, correct?
I haven't had any new listings in the last week, so I'm not sure. When did it come out?
So you will be. It came out May 1st.
Okay, then yeah.
Okay.
Of course I am.
I know you are. Well, it's
Yeah.
different. It's now it's now a 2-page form, and your seller has to initial on the actual block of whether they want it coming soon, exempt, or delayed. So they have to make an election on each one of those, and then sign the second page. And then there's very specific requirements now per category. So it's been
For me, the issue is I talked to a seller buyer the other day, and she's also my massage therapist. So of course it's like talking to a bartender, right? You tell them everything. And, she said, so if we say July 1st, it really means July 8th, because she's heard my horror stories about how nothing has closed on time
Oh.
lately. It seems, and on the last one, I basically had somebody say, well, 2 of our underwriters are out sick, but they didn't tell me that until 24 hours before we were supposed to close on.
But don't forget, you've got to get an agreement in writing, or you're out of contract, or someone's going to cure.
Oh yeah, we did addendums and all that stuff. It's just, it's frustrating when people have vehicles loaded and ready to go, and then the day before you find out that, oh, by the way, yeah, we had tell me 4 days ago your underwriters are sick. Don't tell me 24 minutes before it's due. Anyway, I could just whine forever, so never mind.
I think we're in unprecedented times with that. I think we're seeing more and more problems with that. The other thing is I noticed after like 2008 and 9, when we had all the short sale stuff, and then people started not paying attention to contract dates at all and just assuming it didn't matter anymore. And I think we're kind of almost in that again. Don't you feel like that, Nancy? Where people think, oh, it's COVID, so the timelines don't matter, and they still matter.
And I honestly think that if we didn't tell the lender when the closing date was, we just told the lender when they had to have their documents done,
Mhm.
I think that might work because they will take it to the last minute. If you give them 6 weeks, they'll take 6 weeks. If you give them 30 days, they'll take 30 days.
Agreed.
You know, maybe ask for a little more, but it's almost like the more time you give them, the further out they push it and the less priority it gets from the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. It's frustrating. It really is. I don't know what to do about that. Honestly, I don't know how to solve that problem.
No.
That's
How are people feeling about appraisals?
It depends on, Depends on whether it comes in on number or not.
That's what I mean. I mean, do you feel like the prices that are being agreed upon, you know, for me, out of the last 10 deals, 3 of them were way off, 10,000, 11,000, and 18,000, which is a lot to try to figure out, you know, because they weren't $500,000 houses. It'd be
There's
different
the
if it
problem right there. Yeah.
Well, we need to start tracking who's doing those appraisals too. And I know we can't adjust appraisers or do much about it, but you know, if we find out who's behind it and there's a consistent, I don't know, like somehow I think, I know we talked about this before, and I have a problem that we're powerless to do anything to have these appraisers or an appraiser who consistently is coming in below numbers, have some way of not adjusting that, but get to them and say, something's not right here.
Right.
Well, if we're all wearing masks and Charlie probably has cowboy hats, there could just maybe be a holdup. I don't know.
I have one in case I need it, you know? Like I have the Hawaiian shirt on to go with Nancy's backdrop. So.
There you go.
I agree though, Larry, because now I've started saving the names of the appraisers in my phone and really reminding myself who I feel I totally trust and who I feel I may need to give explanations to about how a price was arrived, things like that, you know.
Just
Yeah,
be
I-
cautious. That's all I can say. Be very
Well, you know,
cautious.
well, I also have a problem with, you know, why has someone said, oh yeah, we can hire an appraiser out of Phoenix and have them do the Tucson market? Because the markets are different. If they're not working that market on a regular basis, I don't understand that.
You can appeal that. If it's an out of area appraiser, you can ask the lender to send a different one. But you need to make sure you do it before they've come out. Once they're there, you know, it's too late. So I would have that conversation with the lender when they're getting ready to order the appraisal. Just say, we need to know who the appraiser is going to be. We need to make sure it's a local appraiser.
So we have the power to do it. It's okay to do that.
You can ask that. You can't, I mean, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I actually had a deal of my own that I had an appraiser from Phoenix come down and they appraised it $30,000 low. Blew the deal apart, got it right back under escrow for the same price as before, had a local appraiser appraise it at sales price. So you just never know until the situation happens. But, you know, just be
I just
careful.
got an appraisal report right now.
Yes, what? I'm sorry?
I just got an appraisal report. But I was going to say, which fortunately came in at the right number, but I was going to say that about 6 or 8 years ago, an appraiser did an appraisal for a home in Rain Valley. And in the appraisal, the location was 6 miles from where the actual home is. And I said, this isn't valid, this is no good. I represent the seller. And then for a variety of reasons, the deal just did not go through. So 2 years ago, I got a notice from somebody from the lender that this appraiser was going to appraise a home. Again, I represent the seller. I picked up the phone, I called the lender, I said, I don't care who you get, but you cannot use this person. Because this person does not know the market. I mean, I told them the story. So they went back, they told the appraiser that, you know, the seller objected. And she called me, and she was very nice about it because she knew that in the previous case, she could have had a valid complaint filed, and my clients would not do it. So she said, is it all right if I help finding an appraiser for this particular property? I said, fine. And we got a perfectly good appraiser. So Larry, you can raise your hand. If you have a valid reason, and somebody just doesn't know what they're doing, don't let them do it. I mean, it's your client that's at risk. In my case, I lost a deal. Yeah. You know, it came back later on.
Yeah. You just have to be careful, especially in like Sonoyta and Sierra Vista, where it's a smaller pool of appraisers that work that area. We had a big problem in Sierra Vista. I guess it was last year, Nancy. I think that they were coming. We had one.
The VA appraiser?
Was consistently, yes, a VA appraiser that was consistently coming in low. I mean, significantly low. On deal after deal after deal after deal. And we did complain, went absolutely nowhere. But we did at that point feel like we had to voice it as something because it was so apparent that this agent, or this appraiser is off the mark, you know?
He either
This
didn't,
is, this is totally unrelated, but today is Aylin's birthday and she's on this call,
Oh, happy birthday.
right? I think it's today, yesterday. And she's very quiet, unlike me.
You can sing happy birthday to her then.
Oh, I'm driving. I should go get in.
You can still sing and drive.
Never mind. I have a phone, I have earbuds, and I'm waving my hands. It's ridiculous. No,
and you're driving, waving your hands.
I know. You did not see that. So.
No, we did.
Oh.
Goodness. Good funny. Well, otherwise, how's everybody feeling about the real estate industry right now? I know that there's a lot of changes going on. We're instituting our own changes within the offices and stuff. People are working more remotely. They're not interacting the way that we're used to. How are you guys coping with that? No,
I told everybody at ALC yesterday. Now, I told everybody at ALC yesterday, or I think it was just yesterday, that I was more nervous now than I was 3 months ago. That the spike and everything. I mean, you know, Lisa, I've been in the office and I haven't worn a mask in the office. I was in the office when nobody was. But I'm a little nervous right now. And so the whole conversation yesterday about masks, I think was a really relevant conversation. And then that was stretching all our buyers and sellers. So kind of continue.
You're breaking up a little bit, Don. At least from my end, I can't hear very well.
Yeah, breaking up.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah.
You know, I'm in
Sorry.
that age bracket that needs to be concerned. Not that anybody doesn't, but you know, it's something we need to be aware of it. And wearing masks doesn't just protect it, protects those around us. And I think it's a responsible thing to do right now. Whether or not, no matter what political party, whatever your views are on anything, it's just a responsible thing to do. And as a company, we have to take that burden on and say, yes, this is our standard. Just like when I shut open houses down, it wasn't safe at that point. We thought to do them. I'm not to that point again yet, but you know, with the mask thing, we are going to start implementing those in the office on Monday. You'll be getting a notification out probably today or tomorrow.
I see a lot of cooperation in the real estate industry, at least in my market, which, you know, is sort of surprising to me as far as cooperating and sanitizing and social distancing.
I'm in my own house. I know how sanitary it is or isn't.
But I have to tell you, out in this community, it's amazing. People are doing what they should be doing.
I'm pretty happy with everybody that we have. We have a few rogue agents, I guess you should call them. And there's always going to be a few. And honestly, you know, having a difference of opinion is what makes the world go around, you know. But in this situation, I think that we just have to err on the side of caution and help those around us.
It's a small price to pay.
It really is. It really is. I mean, I've got mine right here. Every time I walk out of my office, I put it on. Do I love it? No. It's hard to breathe. It's hot, but it needs to be done.
I
It's
look at
actually
it
showing
just as being
respect for other
respectful to others.
I'm sorry, Robin?
I look at it just as it's me showing respect to others.
Exactly. Yeah. You know, and if that's even like one tiny little smidgen that we do to help prevent the spread, you know, we're not scientists, at least I'm not a scientist other than what I took in microbiology in college, but, you know, I don't know exactly how it's spread completely. You know, nobody does at this point, but whatever we do, I'm going to do my part, you know, and I hope that everybody else does as well.
And if you know the mask maker, you can get ones that, you know, are really designer type.
I like that one. I'm going to steal that one, Charlie.
Yeah, get that under mass production, please.
You know,
Yeah,
my-
the ones
my
I
wife
think are like
was
old
a big,
tidy whiteys or something. Like,
What was that, Charlie?
My wife and a friend have been making masks for about 2 months now, and they just give them to various not-for-profits, the Indian reservations, medical people, and so on.
A nice gesture.
And I think they probably given away 5,000 or 6,000 at this point.
Wow.
We have had people that, have provided fabric, quilters. All these quilters have excess fabric.
Yeah.
They finally think they can part with some of this stuff. So they've been giving that to Mimi and Ellen. And then things like people have been buying elastic for them. People have been buying the inside of the mask is it's a two-part mask. But the inside is made with t-shirts, men's t-shirts.
Mm-hmm.
Good.
And so people have been buying those and contributing them. So people contributed.
They're not used men t-shirts that smell like cologne or anything like that.
This is before that.
I just
Free
got a
cologne.
visual.
You're bad, Donna.
What can I say? I might need a mask that has a good cologne.
We can
I'll
make a
go
new
out and buy some
candle with
Old
that
Spice
scent.
and sprinkle it on, send one to you, Donna. How's that?
Thank you, Charlie. That'd be good.
Yeah,
Spice on it.
instead of that Shania Twain song, whose boots have your bed been under, whose face has your mask been on?
Oh, I know we're making light of it, but it is. I think throughout this also is with as serious as it is, we still have to have a sense of humor and be able to cope with all of this that's going on.
Agreed.
Real estate is serious, Lisa. We need to take this seriously. That's coming from me.
I was going
Oh,
to say,
thank you, Dan, because you're always serious. Yeah.
Always serious.
yeah. I'm just concerned with, so we've had the one agent that's tested positive, and I know there'll be others probably in the months ahead. And it terrifies me what's going to happen with our own little family here and in the community as a whole. So,
Well, it goes along the same lines as a seatbelt, guys. You wouldn't get in a car and not put your seatbelt on because the risk of the injury is fatal. The actual percentage of opportunity is light. But would you not wear your seatbelt because it was, we started them, they're uncomfortable. You get used to them. But if you had it on in the situation, you walk away from it. If you don't have it on, you die.
yeah,
It's the same thing. We're doing this to protect the greater good. Even if it's uncomfortable, you have your own office, you walk from one door to the other, take it off, get comfortable to your work or stay home and work. But this is all about taking care of that small percentage that it could happen because it's fatal. It's not like it's the cold where you're going to get sick and go home. It's if you catch it, you have a percentage chance of dying.
Yeah.
And that's we become more serious because now it's a little bit closer to home. I mean, hell, Tracy's cousin was on a ventilator for a month and almost died, and he finally started to come back through it. So
yeah.
I mean, it touches a little close to home. So if those of you who don't have someone personally that to make it real, that's in itself is we're doing it as a company saying, hey guys, we're standing together as our family because our family has been affected by it
Right.
directly.
Yeah. And we are going to have the naysayers. We're going to have the people that are going to refuse to wear one. And then we're going to have to ask them politely to leave the area because the rest of us are in compliance. And that's going to be uncomfortable for all of us, I think, when we see that happening. But we got to stay united. We've got to stay strong and look out for everybody's interests in this.
And I just want to see some pretty cool masks. I think we can turn the masks into like the crazy socks.
Oh, that'd be fun. We could actually do like have mask contests. We could have different things and we could make it into something fun.
That would actually be a really good idea.
Yeah.
I want
I
a
might have
mask
to go butcher some of my old socks.
opening for a straw.
I think it'd be fun to have even just pictures of, this is embarrassing to admit, but I'm going to admit it. There's only 10 of us. I had 2 agents come up to me with masks on in the office 2 days ago. I did not know who they were. I couldn't recognize their face without.
It was me, Lisa.
Yeah, right, Dan.
I liked your dress. But yeah, but I didn't recognize them, which made me realize that I need to pay more attention to all of the details.
Eyebrows?
Yeah, that I'm talking to, because I apparently only focused on their lower half of their mouth when they're talking, usually because I'm hard of hearing. But it was interesting for me. So it'd be kind of fun to do a thing where we have pictures of agents with masks and say, can you identify this person? You know?
Early on, we were showing people using cups of bras when they couldn't get masks. I'm like, there's a thought.
Depending on this, never mind.
I like that idea, Lisa. I think I can go the final round before they figure out who's behind the mask.
I think if we just do it from your mask up, they may not know who you are, but you're ready.
You need a longer mask to cover up the red beard there.
Yeah, that's a dead giveaway.
That's a giveaway.
But there's a couple of us, like, I don't know, if Donna and I took our glasses off and just had a mask on because our hair's so much, they may not know the difference between us. You know, there's a few of us that have enough of the similar features that we're interchangeable, I think, with it.
It would be
Is that
fun
better?
on a Zoom call with masks and sunglasses.
Yeah,
Everybody had masks and sunglasses.
yeah.
All right, Don, I'm ready.
Wait. I have to scroll to find you.
I'm so ready, Donna.
You've
That's
been ready, Donna.
Scary because look at the stuff behind the mask.
Yeah, we don't know how much filtration that is. Yeah. Who am I now?
Oh, you've entertained me on my way home, and I've learned about woes in Sonoyta and that I need to get brought down and have wine, but now I gotta go.
The problem is I can't see you guys laughing, you know, with the masks on, so, and I'm fogging up.
I do have a question that's real estate related. I'm trying to remember the details of it. It's Ricky Anderson's client that is working at land deal, super cheap, and the guy selling it's not an agent, has a contract in place that he can assume, like the buyers can assume out.
A sign?
No, he said he used the words assume. So
Is it a mortgage?
no, it's a $1,700 acre out in the middle of nowhere.
There's
So
a- one
What
that-
are they assuming?
Yeah,
exactly.
you can
That's what I
assign,
was wondering.
assignment, you can assign any contract by law in Arizona with permission or, you know, with written disclosure, but interesting, that would be something to take to Nancy.
Yeah. I tried to get Ricky to come on this call, but he wasn't able to because he's going to have some details to it. So I'll get him to reach out to the broker hotline and get some information. But if it is a signing, is that something that we're allowed to do as agents, is represent a buyer that's taking an assigned contract?
Well, you can write a contract that says and/or assigns, you know, the name of the buyer and/or assigns,
And the
and
buyer
that'll
can
give them a heads
sign.
up, but.
The thing is, if the buyer takes over a contract, they're obligated to every term and condition that was negotiated in that
Right.
previous contract, whether they like it or not, and
Right.
including the closing date, the terms, you know, all of that. So if he could absolutely represent that buyer, knowing that what he's taking on may be something he's not interested in doing.
All
And
right.
maybe no compensation either, unless the buyer pays him.
Right. I'm going to have to find out something. Well, I gotta let you guys go. Got him. He's calling me back. Love
Okay.
you. Bye.
Love you too.
I don't even know how to hang up, so I don't even know how to get off the phone.
Oh gosh, well, we got off real estate there for a bit, but now we're back. And we've got half a minute. Is there anything else anybody wants as a parting shot to the brokers?
I'll just have to, these things bother me. I'll go back to Charlie's situation. It's just, there seems to be that there should be, you know, something called out for someone that's not working a certain area to just automatically know that they can't just step in there and try to act as an agent. I thought that somebody from Phoenix isn't able to sell. I can't go sell in Phoenix because I'm not part of the MLS up there.
You can sell anywhere in the state, but should you? There's the rub.
Well, yeah, okay.
You know, yeah.
And here's the only deterrent we have. If the agent is not a member of the MLS in which you have the property listed and are offering the compensation of cooperation and compensation, only the agents within that MLS are being offered that compensation.
And
So
bound
that's
by
the only
rules.
holdout card you have is, well, you can represent the buyer, but you're not getting paid. Nobody likes to do that because it, you know, kind of sends a bad message. But at the same time, they cannot just expect they're going to get paid because they're not a member of the MLS.
Yeah.
So is
If
it just a matter
member,
of being?
then that's a different story.
So is it just a matter of being a member of the MLS, not necessarily that specific association?
No, well, there's two different things we're talking about. We're talking about a membership and compensation. We're talking about representation and whether or not you're acting in an area of expertise. So we've
Yeah.
got two things on the table here. Charlie's was more about acting outside of your area of expertise. But Nancy was absolutely correct that you're not entitled to compensation if you're not a member of that MLS. You know, and our ethics do say do not do this without disclosure. So I just think it's ridiculous on the part of an agent to do something outside their area of expertise. Even if someone says you can, I mean, you could, you know, it's like saying like, you could jump off a bridge because you can, but is it smart? No. It's kind of the same thing. And the liability is huge.
Yeah, you're
Yeah,
really
and
not
that's why
representing
I'm-
the client.
Yeah, and that's why I have Lisa holding my hand through the land listing that I'm gonna have here pretty soon, because I haven't sold land before, but I would like to learn how to do it.
And that's what I'm here for. And, you know, that's what we're here for, is to help educate and to, you know, have your back. I'm also going to kick you to the curb if you, not you, but people in general, agents in general, if they don't follow the rules and don't, there's a couple on my radar right now. One Charlie and I've talked about who acted out of his area. They're on my radar. And if I see another thing happen, then they will probably be asked to, you know, to leave the company because that's not who we want in our family. So how's that for being not real pleasant? But
I mean, it's important. It's a big deal. I mean, we're all trying to build a level of quality that needs to be adhered to, just not only for ourselves, but to supply our clients that level of service. And we can't do that if we're always stepping outside our bounds and our expertise. That does nobody any good fiduciarily at all.
integrity is important to me, and I know it is to all of you as well. You know, it's funny, the ones on the calls are not the ones that I'm worried about. It's the ones that don't ever participate in any educational opportunities. They don't come to meetings. They don't ask questions. Those are the agents that are at risk, and reaching out and touching them is very difficult when they don't want to participate.
Yep.
So on that happy note, we've gone over a lot of time. So
Yes, we have.
yes, we have.
So Charlie, call those people and go, hey, you know, you're not going to get paid. So if you want your 25 or 30%, you need to talk to me.
You need to talk to them. No, they gotta talk to the buyer. The buyer can pay the commission. You know?
They can. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
And I'll collect the 6%. So what the heck?
Or whatever you negotiate. Yeah. All
right,
well,
thanks.
thanks so much, guys. I appreciate it.
Thank
Sorry I was
you.
late. I had to take broker Jody to lunch for her birthday from a month ago.
now
That's
that
okay.
everything's just opening up again.
Yeah. We went to go and brought it back to the office and sat by ourselves. We still weren't quite ready to go to the restaurant, but
I hear you.
That's
All right,
actually
guys.
kind of wise, because on the real
Adios, everyone.
side of everything, service is actually, in my experience at restaurants, been pretty terrible recently. So
yeah,
it's probably a better idea just to pick up the food and go back.
exactly.
So,
Thank you so much. Happy birthday again. And
Thank you.
we'll see you all next week.
cool. Jesse, we're 2:30, right?
2:30, yes, sir.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.